My first overall play is going to be Geno Smith over 254.5 passing yards. In this video, you're going to find out exactly why, along with 5 other plays in this single game. And my second overall favorite play is going to be Joshua Dobbs over 213.5 passing yards. And we're going to be using these 2 plays together in a slip and utilizing a strategy called correlation. And I'm going to explain all the reasoning behind these 2 plays. And throughout this video, we're going to go over the tips and tricks of why correlation works, and more specifically, positive correlation. But first, we must understand the exact basics of these fixed payout platforms like PrizePicks, Underdog, Jock Market, because if we don't understand how the payouts operate and how they work and how they pay out users, then we won't understand the correlation strategy as a whole. So let's compare these fixed payout platforms directly to traditional sportsbooks. On traditional sportsbooks, you head over to the book, the online sportsbook, and you hit a player prop, whether you think the player is going to go over or under. But next to those player props, they have what's called an American line. On FanDuel, usually they set these lines to over, under of a certain projection with minus 114 odds or under minus 114 odds, right? And that's generally how these sports books pay out their users, right? Minus 114 odds equates to $86 per $100 that you bet on that specific line, whether you hit the over or under. It doesn't change, right? But then what they do change is the American lines whenever they decide to alter these projections or the lines, right? On PrizePicks, they don't do that, right? So if I were to take an over or under of Geno Smith, over or under of Joshua Dobbs, as you can see here, the payouts never change. And on FanDuel, you can't say the same thing, because there will be some implied odds that change, whether it's minus 125 on the over or under, whether it's minus 165, 200, minus 200, whatever the case may be. They will always alter the payouts based on the player prop and what they determine the true percent odds to hit on that specific player will be. And these fixed payout platforms do have some hidden implied odds, which we'll talk about a little bit later on in the video, but they're always changing the projections. They never change the payout, right? Any kind of combination of players that I can put together, whether it be an NFL, if I include soccer plays or MLB plays, right? The 3 out of 3 will always pay out 5x regardless of the type of combination of players that you put in here. And on FanDuel, if there's positively correlated plays, 2 independent variables within the same matchup, if they're positively affecting the outcome of the other player, they're gonna alter those odds, those payouts, basically to hurt the player, the user that is betting on that sports book, because they know that the percent odds to hit go up with 2 positively correlated plays. So let's talk through this real quick so that we understand positive correlation. If Geno Smith goes out and he throws for over 254.5 passing yards, one, that means the offense is clicking for Seattle and they're throwing a lot, right? Usually that's because the game script is favoring the outcome of a shootout or a very close matchup. But also, if Geno Smith is throwing for a lot of yards, guess who else is probably throwing for a lot of yards, right? That's usually the scenario of a shootout. Joshua Dobbs is probably throwing for 213.5 passing yards. Like, imagine if Geno Smith comes out slinging on the first drive, throws for 80 yards and a touchdown, right? That means Joshua Dobbs is going to have to respond sooner or later, right? Which means he's going to have to put it in the air more often than not, or even play catch up, right? So this game script favors the outcome of going over these 2 players. But what's also positively correlated, let's say that Geno Smith comes out, hands the ball off to Kenneth Walker in the entire game. Kenneth Walker is rushing the ball. Well, one, the game is now shorter because we know that the clock runs whenever the players run the ball, right? The running backs. And we know that because of that, these players, these quarterbacks, are less likely to throw for more yards. This is also positively correlated on the unders. PrizePicks, however, does alter the odds on 2 unders, which is why we start out by recommending 2 overs, because obviously we don't want to alter the payouts. And this is where the positive correlation strategy comes into play. Now, usually what I do in these videos is I compare these odds over to a FanDuel single game parlay using the exact same player props that I include in a PrizePicks slip. But right now, it's very early in the week. It's only Tuesday, so they don't even have player prop projections on their board on FanDuel, so I can't show you that. You guys are going to have to trust me on this. Usually when I put in very similar props, like they differ between a couple yards, but you guys get the point. Usually we're getting a FanDuel single game parlay around plus 2,100 to plus 2,300 odds. It's almost every single time, depending, again, on the specific player prop. And on PrizePicks, including all the insurance behind the 6-man or 5-man flex slip, you're getting this parlay at plus 3,800 odds, which is significantly different in terms of an overall payout than the single game parlay on FanDuel. And that's because they alter their odds to go against positively correlating plays. their single game parlay odds are completely different than if you were to pair a single independent variable from the Seahawks game with maybe hypothetically say Aaron Nola. Like they will always change the payouts drastically if you were to pair those two compared to like, let's say Geno Smith and Joshua Dobbs overs. So anyway, you guys are going to have to trust me on the overall mindset of why this works and the math behind these single game parlays and why they work a lot more on PrizePicks and why they're long-term profitable, because the odds are just simply better, right? So let's go ahead and dive into the rest of the slip, why this is so positively correlated, some more legs to increase our overall percent odds to hit on all these players. What we're going to do is head over to the DGF correlation tool, where this tool spits out literally the highest correlated plays, the highest correlated combos that you can possibly get for any single game parlay that's mathematically profitable in the long run, while also showing you exactly how correlated the slip is. For instance, this custom correlation score is out of 100. The higher the correlation score, the more correlated the slip is. But the profit margin and correlation score go together. There's a profit margin of 186.69% here on the specific slip. Let's talk about why it's so profitable. We talked about the positive correlation with Geno Smith and Joshua Dobbs hitting the over of these passing yards, right? But let's now go ahead and take it a step further and talk about even more positively correlated players with both of these quarterbacks. If Geno Smith is going to throw for a lot of yards, at 254.5 passing yards, that also means DK Metcalf should also be on the receiving end of a majority of those yards, correct? Or at least some of them. So his percent odds to hit likely goes up in receiving yards for him to go over that projection, as long as Geno Smith hits his over of his passing yards. And then also, same thing with Joshua Dobbs. We already talked about him, right? So by putting these three into a slip, I'm now organically increasing the percent odds to hit for this overall slip, as opposed to just those couple players. But why stop there? Why not include 3 more players where our max amount that we can put on the 6 flex slip is going to be 6? So why not include 3 more, right? And if we can find positively correlated plays that also include in the slip that's mathematically profitable, why not? And that's exactly what this tool does. Is it scans the market, finds the biggest discrepancies, and shows you the heaviest, highest correlated plays together. DK Metcalf next, and then Marquise Brown. I mean, it's pretty straightforward at this point, right? And I'm not sitting here and saying that every single over-under with all of these quarterbacks and these receivers is always going to be a plus profit margin, because that's not always the case, right? There's more props that pop out during the week that present a better edge. Maybe some of these receivers have too aggressive of a passing yards line. Regardless, the whole point here is that right now, based on this time, 2:00 p.m. on a Tuesday, this is the most profitable slip, and this presents an edge based on the market knowledge, the market research across all these individual legs. And this is going to give you profitable long-term returns, regardless of actually how the game finishes, because we're not supposed to be predicting the future here. We're playing to the game script. We're playing to the best possible odds that PrizePicks can give us when comparing to the rest of the market, utilizing the correlation strategy. And that's what the correlation tool here at DGF does. If you were a $100 bettor betting from August 18th all the way till today, so almost a full 2 months, you would be up $28,000 plus, right? So just goes to show you where the edge is here on these fixed payout platforms like PrizePicks. You should always be correlating your plays if you're able to do so. And then, yeah, we're going to throw in some other ones here. Tyler Lockett looks pretty soft here, 56.5 passing yards. And then this one makes a lot of sense too. Kenneth Walker, under 72.5 rushing yards. And it kind of makes sense, right? If Geno Smith is throwing for a lot of yards, they're going to be relying less on their rushing game. If Joshua Dobbs is throwing for a lot of passing yards, then that also means the exact same thing. If Marquise Brown's catching a lot of yards, if Tyler Lockett's catching a lot of these receiving yards, then Kenneth Walker isn't going to be doing too much rushing, right? Makes sense. These are all positively correlated. If I were to take these exact same players, put them into a FanDuel single game parlay, I guarantee you the thing would not be over plus 2,500, opposed to the PrizePicks parlay odds where you're getting them at plus 3,800 odds. Completely different in terms of the overall payouts. And just to show you here, the correlation tool is always scanning the market. I want to show you guys just directly comparing the Kenneth Walker odds here. He's slightly more aggressive on PrizePicks, which is why we started here with that player hitting the under, because there's a slight difference. Why not take the under on Kenneth Walker on PrizePicks opposed to underdog, where we could potentially take the under on there? You're getting a 2-yard buffer. I know it's only 2 yards, but why would you ever do that? The correlation tool scanning through the market, finding the most aggressive odds or the softest odds, putting them into a slip and showing you the highest, most correlated profitable slips in general. And that's it, guys. That's how the correlation strategy works. If you guys want to sign up for the correlation tool, be sure to head to the description below. You guys can also monitor this page for completely free. Everybody has access to this page other than the actual slips themselves, obviously, without paying. But you guys can monitor the success. If you guys have any questions, if you just want to sit on the sideline, see if it actually works. Again, I don't really know what else to do to show you guys more that this works. But again, you guys can view this page for free. All those links are in the description below. If you guys did enjoy this NFL content, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future NFL content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.